So always great to be here. Thank you for the organization. I actually put this because I want the people that understand why I put this to focus on the presentation, because it's going to be not about ICO, even that I think ICO is important and we have chance to fix it maybe. Where is this one connecting? Oh, okay. So let's talk decentralization. What is decentralization? Because I started to notice that people talking about decentralization, but if you really put 4 enthusiasts in one room, they never will agree what it is, and you will have sometimes more than 4 opinions, and it is in the good case. Okay, so where should I point this one? Somebody knows? Okay. So cryptocurrency started as a separation of currency, of money from the state, right? If you read everybody that Satoshi and his allies from the start, we don't know who Satoshi is, but we know who the allies are, and we know what they've been discussing about. So this was the idea. We should separate the devil, which is the state, and the money, which is something that we really know, we really need as society to actually operate. Okay, so let's check what is the devil, okay, before we talk about decentralization. Okay, so let's start with some country that located between Pacific and the Atlantics, okay, and check how it works there in the state. Okay, so we the people, right, in any state, and these people actually chose some delegates, right? They chose delegates. They give them power, right? From everybody are participating, who bought the ticket to this state. And these delegates that had the power from the people, they actually select somebody, right, to manage the politics of the money. In this case, is the chair of the central bank, right? Great schema, right? It's super perfect decentralization. Everybody are participating, everybody took power, somebody delegate to somebody, somebody is elected. Okay, why it's not decentralization, right? It looks great. So what is different? What is the difference that we are looking for? And the first conclusion that I want to raise, before I saying what I think decentralization is, I want to say what decentralization is not. And this is the first one. This is the first statement, that many people, it's not necessary, is a decentralization, right? Because today, every cryptocurrency want to have super distributed between, and they think that how much the manyest people as possible, then they will be on the power and then will be discussed as the most decentralized. Probably not. And the second statement that I'm going to say here, and I'm trying to prove it, is that if somebody gives you an option, and in political context, right, somebody gives you an option, it's not necessarily a good option, right? So if you elect somebody in the elections, it's probably, you need to check what you're electing for and what are your options to say that actually you're progressing to some place, right? Or not stopping you. And I think about this statement, that option is not always a good option, very well known in probably in this country and some close countries to this one, right? And for some historical reason, obviously, right? Okay, so this is my first cycle of introducing the problem. You know this, right? What is that? What are those charts? It was very famous problem before we started to talk about ICO in 2017, right? So this is the same problem, which I call the coalition problem, not just me, but known as the coalition problem in the cryptocurrency world, right? So I will not specify which tokens I'm talking about, because I don't want to attack any token at all, right? I love all of them. But this is 3 of top 10. And what we see, the same picture, right? We see mining pools, and these mining pools basically spread the way that if you take any 2 of them, you basically control all the blockchain, right? And we will talk about it in a minute. So, and sometimes it's 2 people, right? 2 people can actually take all the control. And when I say that blockchain developers or blockchain leaders want to have as many people as possible for the gold reasons, we can divide it to philosophical and technical, and check the philosophical claims that they do, or feature that they made in the blockchain, we can talk about treasuries, right? So we have fundings to attract the developers. We incentivize full nodes, right? So actually people can have interest and motivation to run the full node. And they give tokens to early investors to compensate the risk. It's all good, right? It's good. They have a constitution to actually say, okay, let's say what we agree about and be there. But what's about miners, right? The people who actually keep the security of the blockchain, right? The most important piece of this puzzle of the cryptocurrency, right? And we're going to talk about a consensus algorithm later today, but more in technological aspect. Here, I want to touch it from a little bit different angle. So solo miners, I see solo miner, any enthusiast who do some stuff for his life, but if he want to help to some cryptocurrency that he likes, and then he buy 5 GPUs and put it under his bed, and these GPUs make him some money for him and secures his blockchain, right? So this is why I'm talking about what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the solo miner. Let me remind you a little bit what the consensus is in longest chain, right? So this is a blockchain, right? Starting, let's say, from Genesis. Here we have some fork. Why we have a fork? Usually because we have double spend, right? And one part of the spend goes to one blockchain, the other in the other blockchain, and then the network should decide which spend of the double spend is the right one. And in the longest chain, as it says, you need the longest chain, right? So if you have 51%, you're actually going to have the right choice, and the blockchain will decide, and everybody will continue to be happy. So this scheme actually you have an assumption there that says 51% of the network are good people, or at least not want to hack you, right? Because if you have 51 or less than 51, no consensus algorithm are going to help you, right? It's very trivial, I think. But actually, when you say it's about 51% are good, what you really mean is 51% of the mining power are good, right? And we are back to the coalition problems. And what's going on in the blockchain if we speed it up? Okay, I'm going to enter another point of interest here about the speed of creating of the block. What's going on usually in the blockchain? You're going to see this picture. And I tell you why you're going to see this picture. Because these are the blocks that created in the blockchain. Wow, I'm running out of time. Okay, these are the blocks that are created in the blockchain. And actually, if you have a you have speed of creating of the block in the network, so miners on the far side of the blockchain are not going to get the block. So they're going to create their blocks, right? So this is why you're going to have a lot of forks competing for the network. And you have very interesting implication here. If you have this width, right? This width of the blockchain, like 4 forks in the parallel competing, you actually have 3 quarters of the power that's securing your network lost, just for this competition. And what it really means, if somebody trying to attack you, 25% of the power actually enough to take over the network, right? So we are not going to talk about 51% anymore, but eventually, suddenly it's 25%, and it sounds not cool, right? You don't want 21% actually to hack your network. But okay, you say, pretty cool, the network is big, and to get 25% to hack me is still complicated, but let's see the numbers, right? If you have this width, you actually have somehow 40% that is enough. And let's see what it depends on, okay? It's actually a formula, and sorry that I'm talking to you a little bit formula and mathematics, because very hard, right, in this time, but you are out after the coffee, so you are not going to fall asleep, okay? So the chain width that I'm talking about, this chain width that actually means how secure are you, it proportional to net delay, right? As more delay I have in the network, I'm going to get more width, and it's inverse proportional to the block interval, right? So as faster I'm creating my block, right, I'm going to get more width, okay? So let's see some example, right? If I have net delay in the network 10 seconds, right? And each 5 seconds I'm creating a block, the width is going to be around 2, right? It's going to be look like two forks that competing with each other. And if I'm speed up the block for 2 seconds, I'm going to get probably width of 5, okay? And let's take it more. If I'm going to take 2 blocks each second, I'm going to get width 20, right? And it's not cool. You have 5%. If you're going to get to these speeds, you're going to get 5% to actually hack the network. Okay? And this is why we have at least block each 15 seconds, right? And even more. And the question is how chains really solve it today. The answer is very simple, right? So first of all, they are not speeding up. They're doing blocks, like 4 blocks a minute, right? Or even more to have this cool security. But sometimes the problem is even more serious in sense of decentralization. And I still remind you, we are talking about decentralization. They have more pools that the core founders actually control, right? And then you have no decentralization at all because probably one person controls all the blockchain, okay? I will not tell you anything about concrete blockchain, but I think you know that these things are happening, right? And absolutely losing the point because, right, then you ingest database system that some administrator can decide what's going on with this. And the point, let's say the only problem that we have is the time, okay? So when you're creating this amount of blocks per day, I have 2 more minutes, right? But maybe more. Okay, give me the chance. I'm following the time. Okay, so if you have this amount of blocks created each day, so you cannot mine alone, right? Because if you need to mine a month to get 1 block, you will give up because you don't know. Maybe your miner is not working and you're really not doing anything, right? So you need some timestamp, some heartbeat to say, okay, you are mining, you get some money, okay? So this is why these topics are related. This is why they are connected. You cannot have one without the other, okay? And this is, I remind you, this is how we get to this problem. You have to join some pool. And if you join somebody, so let's join somebody strong, right? Because you want it to be, you know, Big Daddy to control you. And Big Daddy lead you exactly to this same centralization, the problem that we started with, okay? This is why we started to work on a completely new consensus algorithm, and we call it the Spectre. It's made some news already because we kept it secret, but started to put out some information about this. These 3 people are the scientists of this project. They're from Jerusalem University, and I joined them to actually see how we can turn it into the real work, into the real blockchain. To explain actually what it is about, how much time I have? Show me the number. 5. Okay, cool. 5 is good. Okay, so to explain you what Spectre is about, I have to explain what the DAG is. Okay, and if you're talking about longest blockchain on the left side, the DAG is on the right side, and the difference is basically like this. If you are in the blockchain of the longest chain world, you need to reference one block when you're creating a new block. If you are in the DAG world, if you're creating a block, you actually reference all the blocks that you know, maybe on the other forks, right? So I don't know if you see here, this block that created, he referenced all 3 of these, and this is how you get this data structure that in computer science called the DAG. Okay, it's directed acyclic graph, right? Graph is it's nodes and references, so blockchain is also a graph, but, and it's more a tree, but DAG is a very, very special graph, right? It's more advanced graph when you have more references. And this is important, this is why it's important, because a reference is a vote of understanding of a consensus. Okay, so here is a good example. This is the longest chain. You have competition between T1 yellow and T2 red. Okay, so the longest, in the longest sense, if you have the yellows more than the reds, so the yellow blockchains will win, right? So you have blockchain voting on the block that they think should win, and you have winning here 3-2. Okay, This is very simple understanding of vote in the sense of longest chain. Okay, but here is something interesting that we started to understand. We started to understand that these guys from the past can vote for the future. Okay, and this will be important in a minute. But what they are voting for? They are voting for the guys who voted before them, the yellow. So they will look forward and say, hey, okay, we understand. The yellow is the winner. Okay, so in this sense, the votes goes very, very simple. And in the minute I will show you how the vote goes in Spectre. It's a little bit more complicated. And here is the thing. This is how a DAG looks like, right? It's not so chained, right? It's very complicated. You have blocks created from all sides and going forward. And you have references, and then you have conflict. You need to understand what's going on between T1 and T2. Okay, because you have some conflict there, you need to understand who takes the presidency. Right? You need to understand who is going to win in this election, who is going to say what is the real true of spending of the money. Okay? So you have three steps. One is to understand from the blocks that know only the yellow and the blocks who knows only the red. Right? In here we have equal. We have 3 and 3. Right? So the vote for now, who is going to win? By the way, do you have beads? Who is going to win? Okay. So for now it's 3 to 3. Then you have block that knows both of them, so he need to decide now who is going to win this election, and it's actually 3 to 1, right? This is what he see. This is the reality he see backwards, and then it gets also T1. So now, if he was watching all the DAG, we actually see that it's 4 to 3, right? And now we need to see people blocks in the past to vote for the future, okay? And here is this, and we can check what are they voting for. And according to their reality, right, if we follow the rows, the references, or this one, we will see 3 to 2, right? So each block has opinion, no matter if you're in future or in the past, just you need to keep the order of calculating, but you have some opinion about the consensus, and we have very, very good proof that actually, eventually, the T1 yellow in this example is going to win. And not just it's going to win. If you remember when I show you the way to hack the longest chain, it was, right? It was the idea that if I don't have 51% in big V's, right? I'm going to have in my security, I'm going to lose in my security, and 5% is going to be enough to hack the blockchain. But here in DAG world, the V's is actually participation in the security, right? So you are not afraid to lose in the V's, and you're still secured in the sense of how much power need to hack you your consensus, right? So this is what leads us to claim that we have 10 option for 10 blocks a second, and it means approximately 1 million blocks a day. Okay, and I will not go more further because we have very, very long mathematical proof, and we are going to release soon a software that's going to show how it actually works in visual way and in very different ways of analytics, because it's very important to prove to people that it's actually possible, and you can go away from the longest to some different direction. And the big winning of this is not just the idea that you can have more transactions and scale in the terms of how much transactions you do a second, but here is the claim that is probably much more important to what I started with, the decentralization, right? So in this sense, if I do 135 terahash a second to like all the network, right? It's probably Ethereum numbers, 135 terahash a second today, right? So we want to compare to real world. And in 135 terahash a second, it means that it is 135 million megahash a second. And what it really means, it's if I'm mining with my 5 GPUs in my bedroom to heat the house, because you need to heat the house in the winter, right? So if I mine with these 5 GPUs, I can have 1 block a day. And if I can have 1 block a day, I don't have to join a coalition. I don't have to go to the pool. Right? So this is why important. If one miner can have 1 block a day, it actually solves the coalition problem, which is probably I claim it's one of the most important. Okay? I told you this. And what we really want to lead to is this chart. right? We want to see much, much more granularity, and the proof is on me, okay? But I believe if all is going to work smooth, we are leading this way, okay? Why I'm here and what we are looking for, as I say, we are self-funded. We are focusing on research, philosophical and technological, and we are going to put a network out there. What we're looking for, people that are looking for these issues, right? To understand what I'm talking about and want to join this sort of movement, right? Because we don't have really any organization behind this chain. We have research organizations that funded more by people that actually want to move it forward. Okay, so we are looking for allies through decentralization in public blockchain. This is what we're looking for. You are all invited to find me and chat with me. I claim that trust, which is the cool value that everybody talking about in private chain and public chain, which is on the surface, is not the only value, but there is more core and more important values to talk about in sense of public blockchains. I will not talk about this now. It's too big to put it there, but you are very, very invited to think what I mean by that, okay? So please do, and if you have one answer, please come and tell me. This is my contact. Draw me an email, and I will join you to the Slack and write chats. Okay, yeah, please do it. Dag Labs is the research place that we're actually working on things. It's based in Israel and Palo Alto. But we are going to spread more, and we are inviting everybody. Like, if you know what I'm talking about, it's basically the doors are open. We have funding, we have discussions, we have any way to help you to help to this thing happen. That's it, QA. Thank you.